Hey guys, welcome to another New World video. In today's video I will continue this short series updating all my crafting guides because the demand to do so has been pretty big. And in this one I thought we could do weaponsmithing. So let's just get into it. Weaponsmithing in New World is a very important skill. It allows crafters to craft weapons obviously, including great axes, long swords, round shields, rapiers, shields, and warhammers. But that's not all. It also allows them to craft sharpening stones that are important in both PvP and PvE environments. Before I begin with the leveling, I wanted to cover a couple of things that will make leveling much easier. This will of course apply to every stage of your training. This way I don't have to mention it every stage over and over throughout the video. First, town board requisitions. These are your best friend while leveling weaponsmithing. There was a time when they didn't really matter so much, but with the changes over the past few months they provide huge amounts of experience for your weaponsmithing trade skill, at a very low resource requirement. And as we know, weaponsmithing can be very resource intensive. The only reason you can't fully max a trade skill in this manner is because the limitations built into the system. Town boards take 30 minutes to refresh, and getting weaponsmithing requisitions are random of course, so you won't be able to level using town boards. However, don't skip them or forget them either. Doing only a few will save you thousands of resources in the end, so it is always recommended. Another new system I need to mention is the perfect salvage system. I won't get into that. I have made a guide on this system and provided a link in the description to do it. But the important thing to know here is that when training a trade skill, always craft in sessions, breaking the total for each tier into pieces, like 50 per session or whatever. This way you will always be able to utilize the potential scraps you receive from perfect salvages for free experience. And it is not an insignificant amount of experience either. I recommend checking out that guide. And finally, before entering into any large trade skill training endeavor, always spec 100 into focus. This will provide you with a 10% increase in materials returned during your salvaging, which as you may have guessed, will be a large part of what you will be doing. Getting as much from your salvaging as you can, as often as you can, will reduce the potential materials I'm about to list by up to 15%, or in some cases much more, which over the course of your training will save you hours and hours of farming or thousands of coin. Now that we've covered that, let's begin with the training. From 0 to 50, for this section, in truth you will honestly probably just skip it, because if you're checking the town boards as I said, you will have hit 50 fairly quickly just from doing these requisitions. But I will include it anyway in case you have been unlucky or just don't have the time to be bothered. So for this section you will be making 100 iron round shields. This of course will require 700 iron ingots, 200 timber, and 100 coarse leather. Nothing very difficult, but we're just getting started. So from 50 to 100, again, this section won't be very difficult and can be greatly reduced by doing a few town board missions. For this section we will be making 173 steel warhammers. This will require 2,249 steel ingots, 519 timber, and 346 coarse leather. I used to always recommend shields for this section as well, but in my most recent test post-patch, I found that the steel warhammers come out roughly 2k cheaper in the end. But if you prefer shields, it is always a viable option. From 100 to 150. Here is where in the old days our weaponsmithing training would grind to a very expensive halt. But times have changed, and although I still wouldn't say this is easy exactly, it is a fraction of the price it once was. Now that we are moving into the more expensive materials, it will become very important to start to be as efficient here as possible. So before beginning here, I suggest speccing into focus, if you haven't already. This is your reminder. Only 100 points though, because you will want to hit the threshold here to receive the 10% increase while salvaging. I also recommend that you only craft these in batches as I said at the beginning. The reason for this is obviously because you will be receiving back star metal ingots while salvaging these, and every ingot you receive back from salvaging is one less you had to farm, making the whole thing take roughly 15% less ingots overall. Which, with the price of these materials, for a newer player is a huge deal. Also, again in this range I recommend checking your market, because star metal ingots can be substituted for blessed crucibles or azurite chunks, and more often than not these are much less expensive than the star metal ingots, and every little bit helps. So for this leg of our journey, we will need to make 231 star metal great axe. For this you will require 3,234 star metal ingots, 693 timber, and 402 coarse leather. And finally, from 150 to 200, this is definitely the most expensive part of the journey, but if you have watched any of the previous weaponsmithing training guides, or have maxed it before on another character, you will know this is vastly easier than it used to be. This section used to be killer, costing you tens of thousands of orichalcum, which is crazy expensive these days. So although it seems daunting, believe me it's nothing compared to what it once was, especially with the introduction of the perfect salvage system. So for this section we will be making 374 orichalcum warhammers. For this you will require 5,610 orichalcum ingots, 1,122 timber, and 748 coarse leather. It is also important here to remember to check your market once again. Tolvium and cinnabar can be substituted for orichalcum here, and in some cases will cost far less. So now that we are 200 weaponsmithing, what's next? Well, time to get to work. First, you're going to need your weaponsmith set. This is completely mandatory if you plan to craft 600 gear score weapons, and we probably wouldn't have leveled this expensive skill if we didn't plan to. So let's have a look at the gear and where we will be getting it. To farm the helm, you will want to kill High Priest Osaguera, found in the Great Cleave in Nihilo Visage. For the chest, you will want to farm Artifacts Fatum. You can find this mob in Upper Harrow in the Shattered Mountain. For the gloves, Juna, found in Profane Prospect in Eden Grove. For the pants, you will want to farm Articulon the Unshackled. This guy has 2 potential spawn locations. First in the Great Cleave in the Mangled Heights. Second in the Great Cleave in the Nihilo Visage. For the boots, you will want to farm Sessa in the Serenity Sanctuary in Evanscale Reach. You will also need an earring with a +5 minimum weaponsmith crafted item quality. These have been changed slightly and drop far less in the world now. However, the orichalcum weaponsmith charm is very cheap on the market and can be used at your outfitting station to craft your own earring by adding it to your desired mod slot. This earring can be low level, any quality, none of this matters. You will only be wearing it to craft, and all that's important from it is the +5 weaponsmithing. Next up, trophies. You will of course want to have your 3 times major weaponsmith trophies. These aren't quite as important as your armor set, as they do not increase your max potential roll on crafting. They do, however, increase your minimum roll, so you can craft 600 gear score items without them. However, they will decrease your roll range, giving you along with everything else the desired 595 to 600 potential roll, decreasing your chances at rolling purples and increasing your chances at rolling legendaries. And finally, the food. As a weaponsmith, when you craft, you're always going to want to have Savory Vegetable Medley on hand, as these provide you with the needed +15 minimum gear score when you craft weapons. Well guys, I hope this updated guide helps those of you who have been posting on my old ones requesting it, and as things change, I will try to keep these up to date as possible. If you have any questions, please feel free to check my Discord. I or someone there will be available to help. And as always guys, thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next one.